All right, good morning, everybody. Accountability. Man, what an exciting, engaging, just awesome topic to talk about, right? Accountability. So how do Fuad and I stand up here and talk to y'all for an hour about accountability? We don't, honestly, because it's up to you guys to get involved. There's pages around the room. Multiple times throughout this, we're going to be getting up to go and jot down our thoughts, our ideas, or what we would do in certain situations. So just be prepared for that. So Fuad and I will not be up here talking for an hour. You know, as far as accountability goes, all of us have been held accountable at some point. I mean, it's just a part of life, whether it was when we were a kid and our parents held us accountable, whether it was at work and we needed to be held accountable. We've also had to hold others accountable, whether it's our kids at home, employees, managers in the job. So accountability is just a part of life. What's one of the first things you think of in regards to Jason's Deli when you think of accountability? First thing that pops into mind.
Writing people up.
Okay, anything else?
Standardization.
Standardization. Okay, we'll talk about that a little bit in a few minutes, but anything else?
Being accountable to yourself.
Okay, self-accountability, it's good, really good. But yeah, writing people up was the first thing that came to, kind of the first thing, a DAR. We're going to write this person up for not doing things right. So Fuad's already written me up. He's going to give me this. I'm sure I'll receive it later today. So we kind of touched on self-accountability, holding yourself accountable. Extremely important, you know, and when we think about what is accountability, you know, it's responsibility. It's me taking responsibility for whatever needs to happen, for, you know, doing the job right, for holding others accountable. You know, it's integrity. It's doing the right thing when no one's looking. It takes a lot of courage to hold people accountable. Having those tough, uncomfortable, confrontational conversations, it's not easy. So it takes courage. And it also takes discipline. It takes discipline and consistency. What it isn't, it's not finger pointing. It's not excuse making. Is there an aspect of that to accountability? Yeah, if you got to hold somebody else accountable, you identify it, you know, they made the mistake or they chose to do this poorly or the wrong way. Yeah, there's a level of accountability with that. So yes, there is some their fault to this, but it's not deflecting. And it's definitely not excuse making. In Good to Great, there's a portion of the book that talks about, you know, it's a lot about level 5 leadership, and one of those sections is the window and the mirror. This is a really, really important topic of that book. So a level 5 leader looks in the mirror when problems occur. They have that shift, that, well, y'all bleep, sorry, that show shift that takes place inside the deli. They've all happened. We've all experienced those. We've all had those days that, man, I just wish I could do that again. If we look in the mirror when those days happen and we try to identify, okay, where things went wrong, what can I do different tomorrow so that doesn't happen again? That's what we need to do. We're all going to make mistakes, but looking in the mirror and trying to correct that is what's important. And then whenever things go well, we have that $20,000 day and everything ran smoothly. Every single delivery was on time. We didn't have any reruns. Every customer that walked in the building was well taken care of. That's when we're high-fiving the crew and we're patting them on the back for a job well done. We're not taking credit for it, because without them, there's no way it would have happened. Yesterday we heard the 20-mile march presentation. You know, and no matter what department presentation you heard, it was all about one thing. That one thing that leads to mediocrity, which is what? Inconsistency. So the moral of this story is you got to find that consistent pattern of behavior inside your store and shooting for those consistent goals and doing things consistently inside the deli. You also heard them talk about when the weather's bad and when the weather is good. We can relate to that inside the stores. Sales are great, we're up in sales, food cost is awesome, payroll's in line, Bottom lines are looking great. Weather's great, right? Does that mean we give up on theoretical food cost? Does that mean we give up on theoretical labor? Does that mean we drop our cleaning and maintenance? Does that mean we stop doing the processes and procedures inside the deli that got us there? No, we have to stay consistent with those things. Dig deeper. That's right. That's right. Maybe we could do even better. What about when the weather's bad? Do we skip doing the temp log? Sales are down. Profits are down. Do we skip out on theoretical food costs? Do we skip out on, focusing on our theoretical labor and our variance? It's all that more important to stay consistent with that stuff. Weather's good, weather's bad. Got to stay consistent. How many of you guys, you don't have to tell me, how many of you guys remember what the operations 20-mile march is? You just learned it yesterday. Forget the first part of it. That's our job. That's a DO's job. Is to coach and support you guys. That's your job. Produce future MPs who grow people, grow sales, and grow profits. If you remember that out of anything, we've been talking about people, sales, and profits for several years now. Now, if we just throw in that focus on producing future MPs who do those same things. So we're going to go back a little bit. Where we were. All of you guys are going to recognize this. It's a spreadsheet. For another spreadsheet. All fill out a Google Doc. What time does that Google Doc due? 8 a.m. 8 a.m. what day? Every day. Okay, 8 a.m. Tuesday was a typical response. We had to fill them out again on Thursday evening after the schedule was written. There was so much of this going on. Is there a place for this in business? Absolutely. There has to be. You've got to be able to track your progress. You've got to be able to track your results. But you don't do it for me. You don't do it for your DO. You don't do it for Reagan or Troy. You do it for the success of your store. If that's what works for you, if those are the documents that you need to use to be able to track your progress in your store, do what you need to. Another where we were topic. A checklist for another checklist for yet another checklist. All for what? All for an audit, right? Remember those? Once a month, DM in your store, doing an audit. Twice a year, your RM was in there with them, doing an audit. We were focused on an audit. There's some good things that came out of that, really good things. Some good discipline inside the store, some good practices, procedures, processes. A lot came out of what we were doing, focusing on those audits. The audit was created by people that do not touch the customer every day. They don't touch the customer every day. It's you guys. So we were doing the audit because that was what we thought the right thing was to do. But it was produced by folks that didn't necessarily touch the customer every day. I'm not saying there wasn't an element of operations in there. There definitely was. But this all boiled down to a command and control structure. Excuse the slide. I think that was some 80s movie or something like that. I found it. Have you seen it? Oh, okay. But I will now. But it all lended itself to a command and control structure, that's where we were. That's what we're getting away from. Where was the accountability in this? Who was the one that was holding the stores accountable? Who was the one that was telling you what your payroll needed to be, what your food costs needed to be, what your sales needed to be, what your bottom lines needed to be, how many managers you had to have? Who was the ones that was doing that? Right. It's my image of a DM, RM. A drill sergeant. Yeah, I thought that was me. Yeah, a drill sergeant. We were telling you guys, we were running the stores for you. We weren't allowing you to do it. Right? Can anybody relate to that? A lot of people can relate to that? Good. So the initial heading to this slide was where we are. I added the going. We're not there yet. We are definitely taking the right path. We're going in the right direction, but we're still on a journey. So it's where we're going. What was missing from those other two slides? We had an audit, we had a checklist, we had a spreadsheet, we had a Google Doc, we had command and control, we had a DM.
People. Accountability.
Somewhat. Well, the accountability was coming from the wrong place. Where was the customer in that? Well, we thought we were doing the right thing with the audit for making sure the delis are, everything's consistent, everything's in the same place. It's going to help with the customer. It's going to help with the employees. It's true. Some of that aspects of that is true. But we were more focused on the tasks and doing this checklist and doing this, filling out this Google Doc, and this wasn't in there. If this isn't in your store now, it needs to get there pretty quick. We need to get that focused return to the customer. So where we're going, we like to start from a place of yes. That doesn't mean that we end at yes, but that means that we like to start there, listen to ideas, let's talk through this, let's go through the pros and cons. It may result in a no at the end of the day, but that is what it is. We're still looking for those ideas. We're better at planning our business, and our sales plans have become so much better. Difference is, in the past, RSD, LSM was telling us what our sales plan needed to be. Probably your DM, in one fashion or another, was telling you to put together some sort of action plan if things weren't going right in the store. Now both of these are yours. Autonomy in the delis, decision-making rights, purchasing a new piece of equipment. Once again, we try to start from a place of yes, not always going to end there. Sometimes it is going to be a no, but that's where we're trying to get. All for a better partnership, all for that MP. So we are going to get up, and we're going to divide into 5 groups. Do you know how many?
About 5 people each group.
5, maybe a little
Maybe
bit,
6.
maybe 6 per group. And this is going to be very interactive. I started this off with, how do Fuad and I get up here and talk about accountability for an hour? Well, we don't. Half of that needs to be you guys. When we get up and divide into groups, what we're going to do is we're going to go to your pieces of paper, and we're just going to unpack whatever we think about accountability. Just jot down on the page, doesn't matter how many things, just what does accountability mean to you? Just simple one-word statements. Okay? So let's get up. I got markers over here. I walk aside the screen.
Give you that as you get your team together. 5 or 6 over here.
I'm sure that's on the You don't want Alex to write. Bryce, what'd you guys get? Oh, hold on just a second. Pick your top 2. You don't have to run through the whole list. What are your top 2 that you think are most important to accountability?
Coach. E.
Coaching. Yeah, you guys are
Ability.
Responsibility and coaching. Very good. Guys,
I think the top 2 is trust and development.
okay.
Doing the right thing even when it's hard, not walking by something that should be fixed. And then self-accountability, setting that example, holding that standard for your staff and for your deli.
Awesome. All right, everybody's going to stand up. Last time we sat down, but it's going to be easier to stand up. So I'm just going to run through these next slides and what is needed from you in order to make the partnership successful. A lot of this has been said, and that's why I wanted to talk about this first, and then we go back and discuss this. Self-awareness. So we're thinking about humility. Humility comes in self-awareness. Always working to improve yourself, whether that's reading, whether that's asking for feedback from your people. What can I do to be better? Self-management. Integrity. Confidence, honesty, all of those things are kind of spread out around the room. So self-management is extremely important. I'm not there to manage you. You've got to manage yourself. Self-accountability, that's come up quite a bit, self-awareness. It all boils down to self-discipline and that culture of discipline, like what you guys had over here, or confronting the brutal facts. Confront the brutal facts. Culture of discipline. So you confront those brutal facts. Culture of discipline is going to help you get past those. Okay, next exercise is we live by a set of core values, these 5 core values that are extremely important. And violations of these core values there's different degrees of accountability that needs to follow with that. So what we're going to do is I'm going to assign each group one core value. You come up with your own violation. So what is that violation of that core value? And then what are the accountability steps for that person that violated it? Any questions about that? We're going to start over here with the overachievers. So, healthy growing company.
So cash shortages, employee meals, not paying for them, inventory. Most important is coaching, making sure that they know the expectations. People break the rules because either they don't know or they don't care. So making sure that they know the rules. If they do, issuing DAR and starting the paper trail, basically.
Confronting the brutal facts.
Yeah.
Culture of discipline. Yeah. Very good. Guys?
We had high personal standards. We uniform violation. So things we were talking about is probably at first, coaching, explaining to them why it's important for everybody to be in uniform, presentation, all of that. Verbal warnings if that don't work. Probably sending them home when they show up without uniform over and over. But I think also important with that is, as a management team, everybody has to be consistent with that.
Mm-hmm.
Like if my PM crew show up without uniform, if I'm not there, like my other guys need to have the same standard and say so.
Well, it came up in one of the other groups is where does that accountability lie? Yes, the employee knows the expectation and they choose not to follow it. But where's the manager? Where's the manager on that shift that's allowing them to do that? Right. So there's two different levels of accountability that need to happen.
Every time you don't say something, you're saying it's okay.
You accepted it. That's right.
Absolutely.
What y'all got?
Great place to work. Just talking about inappropriate workplace behavior, males disrespecting females, or vice versa. They got some HR statements on their issue and had an employee meeting, reset the standards. This is the guy taking over a new store, had to let this employee go. Have the whole entire employee meeting. Look, we let this guy go for this reason. We're not gonna tolerate this, and we got to start fresh from here, making sure we're all respecting each other.
Certainly, in a case like that, lean on your resources, your experts, somebody in HR, let them help, with the situation and coach what the proper thing to do is also.
Y'all may have it, you may understand how to do it, you may be able to work through that process, but it's always good to just, even if you want to bend somebody's ear about it.
Yeah.
That's a sticky one for sure. One of the other things that came up in Great Place to Work was, it was kind of came up in both. Highest personal standards and Great Place to Work was an employee showing up late to work. And what level of accountability do we hold that person to? 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, 30 minutes the next time. We tend to accept it. It happens every day. Every day. So we create a great place to work for that one employee. They can show up to work whenever they want. I don't have a schedule. I'll do whatever I want. But for those 6 other employees that are having to pick up the slack, for that one employee that can't get to work on time, not such a great place to work for them. So we create a great place to work for one, and if we don't hold them accountable, we ignore the 6 that are suffering because of that person. So keep that in mind. Highest quality food?
Yep. Running out of product, whether it be not prepping enough or the truck order. Coaching on par sheet execution, just make sure that the pars are right and we're holding the managers accountable. And then the JDC or JDP ordering process, making sure that we're coaching the managers properly on how to use whether it be the iPad or if you're using actual sheets, make sure they've set the pars correctly, make sure there's oversight there, and make sure we're not running out of product.
Very good. Mick, what do you guys have?
We had out of this world hospitality. We chose rudeness to a customer as being the offense, big one. We all agreed as a group that maybe the best choice would be to try to coach that employee, talk to him first, let him know, hey, may have crossed the line here a little bit. We want to try to help you with this situation. And if we felt that didn't get any better, then we probably would need to go with the DAR. And as first step, write up. And then if problem continues, then you would probably be looking at possible termination with that. But, you know, we feel that the best option, first option would be to try and coach that employee through it. Because a lot of employees just sometimes don't realize that they're being rude with the customer, and they need to be taught that, you know, this is the wrong way, this is the correct way.
And the perception, how the customer perceives it. I like the progressive. It's not immediate, I'm terminating this person. Obviously, severity of the rudeness to the customer. Yeah. You know, one of the things that came up in the earlier group was an employee working or ignoring the customer, they were on their cell phone. But then I challenged them with that. What about the employee ignoring the customer, but they're working on a deli task? They're filling out a par sheet. They're doing some sort of checklist in the store, a bread order, a produce order. They're ordering JDD. So that JDD order has become more important than that customer that's standing right in front of them. It happens every day. So where's the severity of the accountability in that? Are we setting the right example in the store when we have tasks to do? Are we setting down whatever we have in our hands to be present for that customer that's right in front of us? If we're not, then we need to look in the mirror because we're setting the wrong example. All right? Fuad, we'll be getting you guys up again in a minute, but for now, let's sit down, and I'm going to hand it off to Fuad.
Thank you. Okay, I want to talk to you guys about the level goals, because I love talking about the level goals every chance I get. And let's talk about some accountability with the level goals. And accountability before signing off on a goal. So I'll give you a little background on this. We've had some folks recently that are coming to MP interviews, and we're going through their goals and asking some pretty basic questions about some of the goals that they have signed off, and coming to realize that they can't explain those goals that were signed off, and they don't fully comprehend what was signed off, and maybe they shouldn't have been signed off on those goals when they were, because they're not able to explain, and we never want to put them in that position. So, we've talked about this a few times. No false kindness, confronting the brutal facts. To me, that means being very open and honest with your folks about their performance, how they're doing, and what their opportunities are, and not just signing off on a goal because they've been working on it for a while, or because they mostly got it, or because they really need to get that goal signed off to keep moving forward. It's about making sure that they know it 100% and never pencil whipping a goal or a level. We ask a lot from you guys in putting your initials on a goal and saying that this person's done, or signing off on a level at the bottom of the page where you guys sign off and you and the employee agree that both of you say this person is ready to move on to the next level. They understand all of this. Got to be 100% sure that that's accurate, so we don't end up, in a place we've been in the past where we have somebody in a position, a 2A or a 1A, and everybody's looking at everybody else saying, how did this person become a 1A? How did they get here? Who signed off on this? We got to make sure that you're holding yourselves accountable and holding them accountable to making sure that those goals are completed. So let's talk about what a completed goal looks like, okay? This is the level 5 goal. Execution of food safety procedures, ensures proper hand washing, sanitizer towel use, temp controls, fill lines, etc. As an MP, what do you guys want to see happen before you sign off on this goal?
Them talking about it, them saying, hey, this is what I found, or giving some kind of feedback in the manager meeting, and so that tells us that you're aware.
Good. Communication, what else?
Stare tech score.
Yeah?
Leading the staff with it during pre-shift meetings.
Yeah?
I think lead by example too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? Good. And like we said, this is not just about them being able to do it, but making sure their team can do it. Ensures proper hand washing, etc., right? They're making sure that this stuff is happening every shift. Going back and looking at data, stare tech audits, see how things are going. How long do you think you'd want to see this happen before you said, I'm ready to sign off on this goal? How long?
Till we're confident that they've got it, that they do it. And then when we're not there, those things are happening during that shift.
Daily march.
That's exactly right. Yeah. People have said, well, I'd see about 3 weeks or about a month, maybe a month and a half. But that's the answer, is when you feel 100% confident that you don't need to follow up on this anymore, right? When you feel like you can take it off your plate, scratch it off your list because you know that they've got it, sign off on that goal, right? Let's look at a level 7 goal. A little harder. Payroll. Consistently runs a good payroll percentage, manages in and out times daily, makes adjustments to the lineup on the previous day when necessary. What do you need to see before you sign off on this goal?
So role awareness on the shift, is he talking about it with the other managers?
Yeah.
Is he aware when somebody's, worked an hour or two over their out time?
Good.
Role awareness.
Good. What else?
I look at my guy to see if he can teach that to my next person in line.
Yeah, absolutely. What else? So yeah, like you said, we're holding a bit of a higher line. Now they're level 6 working on their level 7. Are they doing it consistently every single shift? Again, on a goal like this, what kind of data can you go back and look at to make sure it's done? Say?
Daily payroll.
Yeah, you got all sorts of numbers that you can go back and look at. It doesn't just have to be a gut feeling or a shift that you work with the person to see if they're managing their payroll, right? Good. Let's look at a level 9 goal. Fanatical approach to sales building. It's a little higher level now. Understands the deli's obstacles to building sales and does whatever it takes to remove them, including correcting operational inefficiencies that lead to poor execution. What do you need to see to sign off on this goal?
I think he or she knowing our business, like what our opportunities are versus where we do well.
Yeah? Good. What else?
Following 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock rule, catering execution.
Yeah. This is kind of a two-part goal. I mean, it's not just that they understand the obstacles, but that they're taking steps to remove those obstacles. This is a level 8 knocking on the door to be an MP. Should the standards be set even higher? Absolutely, yeah. So this is not just about do they do it, but do they lead the whole team every single shift? They get everybody on board. How long do you feel like you'd need to see this one before you said, okay, I'm ready to sign off on it?
When they're developing other people in that area.
Yeah. Again, when you feel 100% confident that you don't have to follow up with it anymore, I'd say sign off on the goal. So ultimately, to kind of summarize what we're looking for before you sign off on any goal, 100% knowledge, that they've completed it fully and thoughtfully, they didn't rush through it just to get that goal done, that they took the time and went through that goal, that they understand the whys behind the goal. We talked about that a little bit. Do they know it well enough to teach it? We mentioned that a couple times. So I would say, they're not going to be an expert on every goal, or they may go through a module and they won't be an expert in that topic, but they should probably know it well enough to teach it to the next guy or girl coming up the ranks, right? So 100% knowledge and 100% execution. Documentation in place. What kind of data can we go back and look at to support that goal being signed off? If it was a module, we're going through the module with them and learning what they learned and how it impacted them, right? You gave them enough time to determine. Make sure that I don't need to follow up with this anymore. I'm ready to sign off on the goal. And ask peers and others involved. Especially on some of the development goals we have, there's a lot of people involved on those goals. So ask the crew, ask the other managers, talk to the other folks that are affected, see how they feel about it. This seems like a lot to go through just to sign off on one goal, but it really is that important to make sure that we're continuing to move forward and not putting people into positions that they shouldn't be into or they're not ready to be into. Okay. So in a minute, I'm going to have you get up again. We're going to work through some scenarios, okay? So let's hop up. We'll take a couple minutes to work through those scenarios. Again, a different spokesperson, and then we'll go through it as a group, okay?
I'm up realistic.
All right, guys. I'm going to read the scenario again, to kind of remind you, and then I'll have you guys unpack how you went through it, okay?
That's bright.
So this group, a level 8 manager wants to interview for an open MP position, but she hasn't completed all of her goals. She's trying to rush through the last half of her goals to have you sign off on them. How do you handle the situation?
You first sit down with them and basically sit down, face the brutal facts on why they're not ready, why you think they're not ready, and just come together as both of y'all and kind of come up with a game plan on what needs to happen, come up with an action plan on trying to complete them, and then making sure that they're showing it. A goal is a goal, but if they're not, you know, you can give them a month to get this complete, but if they're not doing it after that month, then there's no point in signing off on it.
Yeah.
So just being honest with them on where you think they are and just come up together and make a game plan.
Yeah.
So.
I think it's easy to go back through some of the goals that you did sign off on and kind of show them the process that you guys went through together to get that goal signed off on and why we can't just rush through these. And I think it's important, too, to kind of highlight why it doesn't benefit that person for you to just sign off on something. You're not setting them up for success by doing that and sending them in unprepared. Good. Anybody have anything to add to that?
I don't think it'd be bad to highlight their eagerness. You know, hey, that's fantastic, but you're not setting yourself up for down the road, like you said.
Yeah.
And also, it's a reflection of, you know, of us. You know, if we're signing off on somebody saying, hey, look, this, you know, this gal's ready to take a store, and then she goes and, you know, struggles. You know, it's on us too.
Yeah, I mean, that affects the whole brand at that point, right? Yeah, very good. Okay, let's go to this group over here. Your scenario, a former 1A is feeling threatened by the level 7 managers in his store that are wanting more responsibility to work their way up to his level and beyond. How do you coach him about the situation?
Same thing, sort of confront the brutal facts. Obviously, that's kind of the trend here. We sort of talked a lot about sort of trying to flip that as an opportunity to develop those people, because in order for them to sort of make that leap to a level 9, they have to be able to develop those people and use it as a positive instead of a negative. That's sort of coach and encourage them to get there as well.
I mean, yeah, I think you nailed it. That person shouldn't feel threatened. That should be a positive thing, right? That they're developing the folks underneath them. And, you know, in our old system, you'd have a 1A and folks coming up trying to, you know, take their job and take their responsibilities. Yeah, maybe that's threatening. Now, you hear these guys saying, I mean, we have MP jobs for everybody, right? You know, it's not these guys are going to get it and you're not. It's let's all move up and go, right? Very good. Anybody have anything else to add to that one?
One thing I tell my people is, you know, I ultimately want them to want my job. So it's okay if, you know, my level 8 wants to be an MP and wants, you know, that's what we want.
Yeah.
So I just tell them, you know, that's what I want them to want for themselves. So
Absolutely. Growing MPs who grow future MPs, right?
Yep.
Good. Let's go to this group over here. Your scenario, a level 8 manager consistently lets one particular employee get away with taking shortcuts and doing things their own way. Manager chooses to be nice to avoid confrontation, but results aren't improving. How do you address it with the level 8?
Well, counseling and coaching, level 8, giving feedback, asking the question, why are you avoiding the brutal facts with this employee, right? So finding out behind it, you know, why are you allowing them the shortcuts? We talked about if they're level 8, they've already done reviews. They understand every section of those reviews, including does the employee avoid shortcuts, right? So they're enabling that behavior with that employee. If it's favoritism, you know, presenting it as maybe, what would you do if X employee did this, right? Instead of this person. How would you act? Would you act any differently? And if they wouldn't, then it's probably a misunderstanding of that whole shortcut situation. You know, is it because you're afraid of losing somebody, right on the spot because you're going to start holding them accountable. So you really have to dig in, counsel, coach them, make sure that they understand exactly what that means.
Yeah, and to take it a step further, I think the same coaching that you're doing with the level 8, the level 8 should probably be doing with that employee because it's really the same violation. You know, both of them are taking shortcuts and doing things the wrong way, right?
Right.
You know, so.
Now, let's be real, most employees know when they're taking shortcuts. So.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Very good. Anybody have anything to add to that?
You know, a part of accountability is courage. So avoiding those confrontations, you know, you could have a good courage conversation with that manager and just a good coaching opportunity for them. This may be uncomfortable now. At some point you'll get better at it and you'll get more used to it.
Yeah.
Somebody over here I think said some sort of, it was a positive conflict is what it was. That's definitely a real thing, is that conflict can turn into a positive. It'll obviously grow that manager, but then can correct that employee too.
The other thing with that also is teaching both the employee and the manager that it's not personal. It's a process and behavior that's being corrected and held accountable. It has nothing to do with one person's like or dislike of another.
Do you also don't want to create a negative work environment because other employees going to see that this manager is letting this employee get away with so much? They're going to want to know why, and it's going to create a negative work environment.
Yeah.
Well, I've had myself where a manager was allowing somebody to take shortcuts but was very passive aggressive, and he was getting angry as to why we're not holding that employee accountable when he was the one that was not doing it. So, you know, that's where it was, okay, well, let's do this together and this is how it's supposed to be done, you know.
Yeah.
So you got to be careful of that too.
Culture of discipline, right? Over here, a level 7 manager had one of her level 8 goals signed off after executing it at a high level, and now she's slipping on that item and reverted to some bad habits. How do you address it with the manager?
Following along with everybody, we're confronting the brutal facts.
Mm-hmm.
You have to do that with every situation. So talk to them, sit them down. First step, give them some feedback. So when we're signing off on these goals, if you really think about it, it's like, you know, studying for a huge exam. This is all knowledge that you're gaining. You don't just study, cram, and then forget. You want to retain the knowledge. So if they're not retaining it, we're going to give them some feedback, set some expectations, set a timeline. Show them situations in which, you know, if we signed off on something, how it affects the deli, how it affects us, how it affects themselves, how it affects our employees. Follow up with that. And if necessary, we said bring the white out. Take it off.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean,
what do you guys think? Is it okay to unsign a goal? Yeah, for sure. You should never feel like your hands are tied and you say, well, I signed off on it already, so even though they're not doing it, I guess I already wrote my initials, you know. Absolutely, you can unsign a goal. Last group over here. A level 8 manager pencil whipped some goals for a favorite employee, knowing that the employee wasn't 100% on those goals. How do you address it with the level 8?
So first of all, it's the self-awareness that they feel like it's okay to do that. So sitting down with that manager and communicating your expectations, and with the employees getting the goals signed off, because it is a self-paced program. Having that manager then possibly apologize to the employee for not setting them up for success, for treating them bad. Basically, that's about the worst thing you could do to them. And then whiting out the goal, taking the goal away. But if you take it away, you need to be doubly responsible for getting them to where they need to be, so they feel cared for.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a responsibility to the employee to make sure that they're not just, sort of stuck in that awkward position. What about with the level 8 though? I mean, this is somebody who is, again, knocking on the door for an MP. Yeah, I mean, to me that level of accountability has to be really high, because I don't think at that level it's I didn't know, I shouldn't just sign off on that kind of situation, right? We've talked about in other groups that it's an integrity issue. Troy was in our first group and he said, to me, that's cheating. Same as fudging numbers, Same as making up inventory. To me, that's cheating, and you know, if it was blatant and it needed to be a termable offense, it should be, you know. And obviously, we got to do a lot of digging and see, you know, what the situation is there. If the environment in the store was, you know, wrong expectations to where that was allowed to happen, but, you know. Yeah, I mean, again, to me, a light bulb went off when you think about it as cheating, just like fudging numbers. There's not a lot of difference there, right? Anything you guys would add to that one? Okay, good job. Let you guys take your seats again.
We are almost done, I promise. So we all saw the 20-mile march presentation yesterday. Just to reiterate, you know, I want you guys leaving this conference thinking about what is your 20-mile march going to be? What is your consistency inside your store? What is that going to look like? You know, we all heard Raymond say yesterday that he can find real estate all day long. What was the thing that's holding us back? Well, he thinks it's people. I don't think so. I think we can get past that. I think it's your responsibility to get the company past that through proper goal execution, through the right conversations inside the store, through the proper accountability. Extremely important. There's a reason why we talk about people first, then sales, then profits. Got to have people. So what is your 20-mile march going to look like? Operations 20-mile march is to coach and support MPs, to grow future MPs, who grow people, sales, and profits. Discipline thought, discipline action, it's definitely what it's going to take to get there. It's just kind of a funny cartoon. Avoiding those confrontational conversations. We should have been performing poorly for 9 months. Haven't had any conversations with her. We're just ready to let her go. Don't want to upset her. I don't want to upset her, so I'm just going to fire her. That's not going to upset her at all. Last slide, guys. If you could kick the person in the pants responsible for most of your trouble, you wouldn't sit for a month. Very good. Well, we thank you for your time. We appreciate it, guys.